Yo, Crowie here. If you're watching on YouTube, I have a Common People Brewing Co. beer in my hand, the Villager's Pale Ale. Shout out to the local Bangalore Lords. Making some great beer, doing some great things, and yeah. Today we're going to be talking about, I guess it's beers and basics, but I'm just by myself. So it's going to be beer and it's going to be some basic knowledge. And we're big fans of simple. And I think more often than not, the right answer is the simple answer. And more often than not, you might know the right answer and you might know the sort of trajectory and way forward, but it's amazing what being busy, being in the dryer, being in the washing machine, being on the hamster wheel, being just frantic, being manic, driving from job to job to job to quote to site inspection to roof space to under the floor to put out that spot fire, to put out that spot fire, to be, you might as well be a full-time fireman or fire person. Shout out to my mate Harry, who appears shirtless in many of Fire People's catalogue, and you probably posted on your partner's wall, maybe right now. Shout out to Harry. You the man, brother. See, it's funny if you know. Yeah, sometimes you can be real manic, real busy, and I guess the goal is in 2024, the mantra is in 2024, the ethos is in 2024, that you would approach business a little bit differently, that you would approach it goal-orientated, that you would approach it focused, that you would approach it diligent, that you would approach it with not like in a different way. We've worked hard. We know you can work hard, right? I said this on the last podcast. The whole community knows you can work hard. So we all know how hard you're working. But just give yourself a little look in the mirror and nod your head and be like, yeah, I'm a hard worker. Yeah, that's right, I am. That's right, you are. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's actually everything to be celebrated. And it's not that normal, I'm gonna say. And one thing I got really insecure about early on in business was that anyone that worked for me was going to start their own business. And I remember it's actually a pretty common question we deal with in the coaching industry, like, oh, what if my head tradie goes and works for himself or herself? And you know, there's lots of things that could happen in life, right? Like there's lots of things that could happen, and there's then what's probably going to happen. And I just think all I can reflect on here is my own journey. And I believe if I was, I hope my old boss is listening to this. Hey, Dave, if I was paid well and really looked after, and maybe not even pay what I was worth, maybe paid. Here's the thing: as a business owner, don't you always want to get the result first and pay second with your staff? Don't you do that? I know I used to do that. You used to be like, you know, you'll be worth this when you do this, this, and this, and then I can pay that, and that's fantastic. That's like there's a really good, clever way when someone comes to you for a pay rise. Maybe you don't give them the pay rise, but maybe you can develop a pathway toward that pay rise or a process toward that. But I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about when that gun, that weapon, that 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000 staff members come into your company. Yes, if you're listening correctly, I am referencing myself to that person. I believe I'm that person, and I know you believe you're that person. Otherwise, you wouldn't have started the business. And you might have that person right now in your company. You might have the Chris, the Brett, the Susie, the Jimmy that's just an absolute weapon, and you know, maybe they're going to start their own business. Maybe not. It's not really your place to say on the journey, but I think you've got to do your best. You got to offer your best offer or put your best foot forward to try and keep them, because they are worth their weight in absolute gold. And I remember, I think it was 2012. I don't know if I've ever shared this story actually to many people. Couple of people, but now I'm just going out to the world on the www, the World Wide Web. I remember 2012 going through this pretty serious debt, and or not debt, like this bad client. You can call them a dickhead if that's what you want. Looking back, it was probably 50% me, and I think speaking to Cam, who we run Sparky together, we're business partners. I was speaking to Cam today, and we were like, you know, we both reckon that 95 out of 100, close to, obviously it's hard to come up with an exact percentage, but so many times when as Sparkies or tradies we reference the dickhead clients, I think if we really look within, most times we could have done something a little bit better, a little bit more organized, a little bit more diligent, a little better communication. And I hope that within not just your business relationships, I hope that within your personal relationships, you can go to, what can I do better first? You know, so often, as a parent or as a dad, as a parent, as a parent, as a son, as a brother, as a husband, whatever, you're always looking to, if that person just did that, then I'll do this for them. And I just wonder what your life would look like if you took front foot control over the whole thing. Like, what can I do differently? Hey, I'm sorry where I draw the ball. I'm going to take responsibility for my own tent, so to speak. I had this big moment. I was camping over the long weekend, the Australia Day long weekend, at Crescent Head, so Back Beach, Crescent Head, if you know, like sort of racecourse beach, the Waves campground. Great campground, by the way. It gets a little bit damp, but hey, lots of places get damp. And I was just camping, sitting there, having this moment, just going, this year I'm going to look after my own tent. This year I'm going to focus on what I can control. I can control my temperament. I can control what I think about. I can control my charge out rates. I can control my time. I can control what I worry about, what I don't worry about. I can sweep up my own life, make sure it's all good and pretty. And yes, I'm going to consider other people, but I just wonder if you looked within what you could do better. So anyway, I remember going through this bad debt, and it was Splendor of the Grass, sort of time 2012, I'm pretty sure. Birds of Tokyo played, as did Mumford & Sons. Empire of the Sun? Trying to think who else I saw. But I remember, I'm not a massive Birds of Tokyo fan, to be fair. And I remember like we're going through this debt, right? Like this client didn't pay 80 grand. I didn't have 80 grand at the time. And I remember just... You know when you're there but you're not there? You know what I'm talking about? Like you're present, your body's present, but your mind's just elsewhere. We would get these like 100-page letters from the lawyers and, you know, all this kind of stuff, and it was just such an awful experience. It really taught me a lot about essentially, long story short, we challenged that they basically didn't want to pay, and we, looking back, I could have submitted weekly invoices, been way more transparent in my invoices. You know, I remember him saying like, "Oh, what did you guys do this week?" There was like 4 of us on this job, and this is like 4, 5, 6 weeks later. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know, because we weren't keeping proper job notes, and you know, it's amazing how it took that to get me organized. And I hope it doesn't take something like that in your business to get you organized. I hope you can wake up and smell the cheese, smell the coffee, smell the baguette, and be like, I'm going to put something in place because make no mistake. You know, you can run a train so fast for so long until it crashes or runs out of petrol, and both are bad. Either it runs out of petrol, you burn out, and that's bad, or you sort of, you know, or you crash, and that's just as bad. And it's in those moments, either running out of steam or going too fast and falling off the rails. It's in those moments in business where you're just like, hey, we're not talking about a business. We're talking about life, your life here. We're talking about marriages. We're talking about we're talking about kids, we're talking about parents. We're talking about like friends, family. We're talking about families. You know, when someone's business fails, it sucks. It's not just it doesn't just affect them. And if you've watched someone go through the ringer confidence-wise, it's really like, you know, it's confidence is sort of everything. Next week on our Sparky Coach session, I'll be talking about business confidence and the importance of a plan. But anyway, so I'm sitting there in this Birds of Tokyo set. They're playing some song I remember from like an old bodyboard movie, like a Glenn Thurston. I think it was Rome 2, if you're into that sort of stuff. And I remember them playing like their plans hits. I was like bawling my eyes out in this Birds of Tokyo set. And it was in that moment I was like, it was kind of this almost spiritual, almost trade God ordained time, almost whatever you want to call it. Just this point in life where I was like, everything's going to be okay. And I made a decision that I would, I would resolve the issue, and I'd get into that in another podcast. But like, that was just, if you've got something hanging over you like that, just resolve it or reach out. I'd love to sort of give you some advice, because you can get real cooked real soon if you approach it the wrong way. But anyway, so I remember a couple months before going through this sort of court case and having that confidence, Wayne, and having that confidence. Like, I don't know if you've ever felt like this, but I just felt like I was just a massive kirk, and I'd not only just I'd lost 80 grand, and we didn't really have 80 grand when I was 26, and and would risk everything, and I was thinking we were making all this money, and I don't know if you've ever sat there in your own business and been like, I'm making money, and then you get to the end of the year and you're like, no, I'm not, like, let's just do it again, and I was sitting there just like, how could I be so stupid? I remember talking to Elodie about the job originally, actually, and I said to her, I said, what do you, like, I said, oh, how's this job I got down? It was down, like, sort of, I guess, 4 hours southwest of Sydney, and I was like, how good's this job? We're going to be basically printing money, just printing the money. And she was like, I don't have a good feeling about that. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, and it's just that whatever side of the boat, female, male, you land on, I don't really care, to be honest. You do you. But that female intuition, or that intuition of a partner to sort of pick up the in-between parts of what you say, and pick up feelings and pick up discernment, you might want to call it, and be like, I don't have a good feeling about that. And I would encourage everyone to when your partner says something like that, probably a part of you just goes, "Everyone just shut up." And it's like, that's not great. I think you need to listen, and I regret, I was like, how did she know that? I said one sentence about the whole job, and she picked up this before we even got going, and look where we landed. And I learned a lot that day about listening to people that have your best interest at heart. It's really important. But anyway, long story short, I was going through a real low confidence part, and it was sort of affecting my whole life. Like, if you have a big hit in business, it doesn't necessarily just affect your business decisions, and it will, but it doesn't just affect that. It'll affect your judgment and your backing yourself, and it'll affect your quoting, and it'll affect everything in your business life, definitely, and sort of your confidence when you're looking at the bank account going, damn it, what happened? It's also going to affect your personal life when you're rolling in the deep, as Adele says, and you're rolling in uncertain or uncharted territories, and the ship you're sailing, there's no motor, but the sail's down and it's super windy, and you're just like, holy crap, like, am I going to be okay? And I remember my old boss, he's just lurking in the shadows, just like always ready to pounce. And I remember sharing with him, and it was just funny. He had a theory that if someone was either had a child or had a mortgage, it was like the golden handcuffs to being an employee. And he's kind of got a point, if you know what I mean. If you've got someone that's working for you that has a child, or that has a mortgage, it's quite a big risk to go and work for yourself. But when you're sort of young and no kids and no mortgage, or maybe you've got a mortgage, but it's, maybe you just back yourself, or maybe you're more prone to taking risks, or maybe just whatever, you felt ordained by the trade gods to jump in and just give it a shot. I know my story is like, I know where I was standing, and I was like, I know I'm going to start a business, and just did it. I didn't really know what it included, didn't really know what was involved, didn't really know what to do. I'm like, sick, cool, let's just give it a shot. And I think that's a lot of people's journey starting a business. You're good at your job, but you're not necessarily, you got no idea. And that's cool, because you've never done it before. And was kind of, and that's where you need some education, and that's what we're trying to provide here at Sparky Coach, some education, some content, some accountability and direction. That's the CAD model for us. We want to provide you content that can help you, accountability that can sort of, why isn't that done, and direction in terms of don't do that, do this. So it's almost like coach salting, you might even suggest or say. But yeah, I remember my old boss just kind of saying, "Oh, come in for a meeting," and I was pretty tight with those guys still, and maybe a part of me, I don't know if you've done this before, but maybe a part of me was just okay for plan B. So maybe a part of me was just a part of me was just a bit insecure, a bit unsure of myself, and a bit like, I don't know, I don't know if you've seen Old School, the movie, but Vince Vaughn, when he's up on the lounge with that girl, and he's like, oh, I can't do this, I'm married, but if something happens to her, give us your number and I'll give you a call. She just like walks away. But it's funny because I wonder how many of us do that in business. We have a fallback plan. We have a plan B. And we have just in case of fire, break glass, in case of flick switch, kind of thing. And I just wonder how many of us would be better off without that. And, I just want to encourage you, if you're in a business, just let's make it work. And I wonder what would happen if you didn't have a plan B. I wonder if you went like, I'm going for it. I'm all in. I'm going for it. This is going to happen. I'm going to get the direction, accountability, and content that I need to create the sickest business. We're going to make some good money, of course. We're going to do some good work with some good people. And I just wonder what would happen if you took your business absolutely seriously. If I was to give advice to myself at that point in time, and I know 80 grand sounds like a lot of money when you don't have it, but I would have just said, hey, get up. Get up, dust yourself off. It's a good business model. It works. You made a mistake. You also got caught up with the wrong crowd. Come on, let's go. Here's my hand. Come on, let's go. Because I could see it working. I knew it was going to work. I'm pretty good with numbers, always sort of have been. And I was like, I know this can work. And a part of me in that Birds of Tokyo set just went, stuff the plan B, stuff it. I'm out. I'm done. I'm going to make this work. It's going to happen. And it did. But back a couple of months, I remember I was just disheveled, disorganized, frustrated, really lonely. Like, you're kind of sharing with people what's going on, but they don't really know what's going on. And, you're kind of looking at your wholesaler bills stack up and your tax debt stack up, and the money's not coming in, and you're looking at the subcontractor bills or the employee, like the wages come in, you're like, And I remember sitting in this meeting with my old boss, and this is 2012, 13, I have to look up the Splendor of the Grass set where Birds in Tokyo rocked it. Am I right? Oh, man. And then I remember sitting in this meeting with the operations manager and the boss, and I remember saying to myself, if they offer me over 100 grand, I'll take it. And I was real low, like the chips are down, the kook style, right? You love it when the chips are down. These chips were down. My chips were down. Stocks in myself are at an all-time low, right? So I remember just really going like, if it's over 100 grand, I'm in. And I sat in the meeting, sat there kind of shaking, and he's like, we see you as the future of this, and we'll put you on a billboard, and like, this is like the kind of spiel. And I remember just going like, oh, like, okay, get the letter, turned over to page 2, forgot the blurb. There's a big blurb there, a big blurb of here's what you can achieve, what you can do, and all that kind of stuff. I didn't really care about that. I cared about the money, So actually, the first thing I noticed was 7 till 4:30 was the hours, and I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm doing 7 till 3:30. Heaps of people try and trick you. This is a sideways comment, but like, I sat with someone the other day, and he's like, oh, I earn really good money, and I'm like, you know what? You work 2 full-time jobs. Like, your money's, no offense, not that good. like anyone can earn double the money if they're doubling the hours. That's pretty much the concept of labor. Like, this is the concept of being billable, right? Anyway, so I remember sitting in this meeting, saying that, flicking the page, and not even kidding you, it said $100,000, right? 100,000,000.00. And I had said to myself, if it's over that, if it was 101, if it was 100,001, if it was 100,050, I was doing it. I'm like, I've lit candles to the trade gods, I've got a tattoo on my lower back of the trade gods. I'm like praying about this thing, searching for this thing. If it's over 100 grand, I'm taking this job. And guess what it was? 100 grand. Guess what 100 grand isn't? It's not over 100 grand. So I remember just looking at it going, let me think about this. And it was like, and I don't know if it was a couple months earlier, it's hard to recall the exact time, but I remember that happened, being like, all right. And just like, let's just preface this by saying, I know tradies at the, Sparky business owners trying not to pay that much money at the moment. This is 14 years ago. Actually, I lie. This is 12 years ago, right? So it's like, I think you've got to rethink what you think good money is for the excellent people. I say excellent people. What would have I brought to his business? So much. What would have he brought to me? A wage. And I'm so thankful that happened, because I really felt like I was on a certain journey. And looking back now as a coach, as a full-time coach, I'm like, thank God I did my own thing. I didn't see this happening at that point, you know, I didn't see this happening at that point, but now it's happening. I'm so thrilled and I'm so thankful for that. But what I wanted to say, what I wanted to encourage everyone is, on your journey, don't have a plan B. Don't even dabble in that. Like, don't even risk going down that pathway, right? You don't want to dabble in that or find that or like lose yourself in the sort of dreaming of the whole situation. Now, focus up on what you can do. Sat in that meeting and I was like, done, I'm out, cool. I'm out of that and I'm totally into this business, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me when I fully 100% engaged, right? 100% engaged.